To all listeners, welcome to the newly founded Sportiverse podcast, the universal sports podcast hosted by me, Joel, the Nikian. And for our first episode today, we have a very special guest, and I'm very happy to introduce to you Andrii KHLOPTSOV. Andrii is a World Junior Champion and a World Championship Finalist in the 50-meter butterfly, and is now the founder and owner of his own swim school, the AA Swim School in Singapore. Andrii, honestly, it's an honor to have you here today.
Yeah, it's mutual. Thank you for inviting me to be your first guest. It's a special occasion.
I will have a tradition at the beginning of each of my podcasts, and I will ask each guest the same simple question to begin with. And that question is, how has sport influenced your universe or your life up until now?
It fully influenced my whole life because from the start, my parents were also swimmers. I've been swimming for 15 years and I became a coach. So I can tell you, honestly, it's the swimming and just sports in general been in my whole life from the start and all the way to the end.
Now, you've obviously founded your own swim school, as I've touched on in the beginning, the AA Swim School, which, if I'm not wrong, offers a range of services from private lessons to video analysis and masterclasses. Just really quickly, how has that experience been having your own swim school?
Yeah, it's amazing experience because business is completely different compared to sports. Of course, you have to put a lot of effort in both, but start managing the other coaches, have clients that have different desires and so on. And especially because we work all around the world with people from US, Australia, everywhere. It's an interesting experience.
I'd actually initially planned to ask this question at a bit of a later point, but I think it fits now anyway. Is there anything that inspired you to start your own swim school, or was that always kind of a dream of yours from young?
I've been always worried about the transition from being an athlete from being a swimmer to a regular person, right? Because it's a completely different climate. You need to work at 9 to 5 or any other job. And every time when I was working in the corporate world, I was moving more towards starting something my own because I still enjoyed sports a lot. Still, I knew that my biggest knowledge that I have is in swimming and I want to spread it all around the world. So, and through this idea of sharing and helping other people in swimming, I started this business.
Now, before we get further into a bit more deeper topics, I wanted to take a moment to reflect on your journey up until now and look back on your youth days and training back in Ukraine. Would you like to share what kind of a typical training day looked like for you back in Ukraine?
So I can tell you back in Ukraine I was working around 10 sessions a week and around 3 to 4 sessions in the gym. So it was quite a lot. But then when I grew older, we slightly lowered the amount of trainings. We shortened them also in kilometers and meters and make it more intensive. So because we're sprinters, it's a 50-meter sprint, 100-meter sprints, right? We have to work more on explosiveness and how to be fast and so on. So I think our average per week, we could have swum 30 kilometers, 40 maximum, but most of it will be quite intensive and quite fast.
Well, that's a lot. And I think for most listeners probably that are not swimmers, 30 to 40 kilometers sounds maybe not as much, but I think we can both say that that is quite a lot of distance in swimming over 1 week.
It basically was around 3 kilometers from 3 to 4 kilometers per session. So it's not quite a lot, but it's still time consuming if you put the gym. So you do in the morning training session, then you have a gym after it. You come home, you take a nap, you have a lunch, and then you go to swimming again. So it's like a full-time job.
It is, yeah. Just a quick one. What was your favorite type of training? Sprint training or something else? I think it's sprint training for anyone, isn't it?
Sprint training, of course. Sometimes I had a big love. At some point of my life, I had a big love for aerobic, just to swim this 15 times 100 freestyle with the big paddles, full boy in 120. Yeah, so, but to be honest, my favorite, gym. Gym is the best.
Yeah, I think that's the favorite for everyone.
Till this day, gym is the best.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now let's jump ahead to 2015. Quite a significant year for you. Would you like to share some details on why that is quite significant?
I can tell you it's just for two reasons. First reason, it was the first Junior European Championship. It was also the first European Games It was in Azerbaijan, Baku. So the whole Europe was there. We moved there for a training camp, and then we had the competitions there. And our goal was to be maybe like fifth, and we would have been happy. But suddenly we came first. We won the first European Games. It was quite amazing. And then 2 months later, we moved to Singapore and we had the World Junior Championship here. And we won again. We were swimming against Michael Andrew and many other currently famous swimmers. And we also didn't expect it, but we always overachieved. So yeah, 2 medals, 2 gold medals, 1 European and 1 world stage.
And I believe that was your first World Junior Championships of your life, isn't it?
Yes, one and only.
One and only. And I always wondered how young athletes or younger athletes deal with pressure and anxiety. Would you say the first step into dealing with pressure and anxiety is just accepting that it is there and that it can be a good thing as well?
Yes, anxiety is important to have, especially during the competition, especially during the big competitions, because if you don't have it, something is wrong with you. Something is wrong with you. It seems like you don't care. And also, just because you don't have an anxiety, you won't be able to perform on the highest level. Most likely, you won't be able to improve your time because with anxiety, adrenaline comes, so you can swim faster just because of adrenaline. And myself, how we were battling with it, with the higher levels of anxiety or lower levels of anxiety, is it's not a secret. Our training program was built in a way that we have 20 different sets that we do each day, and we have to do it once in 2 months. And we've been doing it for many, many years. And if we know that we've done this 20 sets and we improved 16 out of them, it's mean that we got better, right? We got faster. And if I don't mess up anything technically or strategically during the race, I will definitely improve. That's why I always was coming to the competition with the confidence and without high level of anxiety or stress or, oh my gosh, will I improve or not? We were always confident that I got better and I can swim faster.
Yeah, as you said, I think it's all about preparations and athletes needing to understand that with preparation comes confidence and the anxiety levels will probably drop. Now, there's different research and studies that says that each athlete needs a different level of anxiety to perform at their best. Would you agree on that?
Yes, definitely. And it's also, yeah, it depends on body type, on your psychological type, because for sprinters, you need to some other things. For long distance for long distance people, I have something else. For example, sometimes I can see that coach has different approach to many, and I also have different approach to all of my students in a way that to someone I have to kind of slightly scare them, right? So they'll get more adrenaline, they can perform better. Other student, I don't need to touch at all. I don't need to talk to him about anything. And the third one, I need to make sure that he's feeling confident in himself. I just need to support him a little bit. So it's always different approach. But yeah, I agree with you definitely.
Yeah, that's true. And I think coaches need to understand as well that each athlete is different and individual, and each athlete needs different ways of functioning and activation. And you've
Yes.
touched on it before, and I just quickly want to add that there is actually this concept of under arousal or under anxiety, where athletes are not fully mentally and physically activated to the level they should be, and therefore then underperform.
Yes, it happens especially many times on a competition that doesn't really matter. Even though you still want to perform well, you still can beat your personal record, even though you're in a mid-season and so on. So it's also part of the job of your coach, put you mentally in a proper state that even if you come to the competition that is not relevant, that is not important, you still will have this level of anxiety just to make sure that you can perform well.
Now, as you've touched on before, 2015 was quite a good year for you, a year with a lot of success. And I think success is firstly, rightly so, seen as something very positive. But I think we both know, and a lot of people probably know as well, that success can lead to more pressure as well. Of more pressure that you start putting on yourself as you've been successful for the first time. And probably that dilemma in your head of, do I change my routines and my trainings that have worked up till now, or do I just stick with what worked? So I was interested in, did you change anything after your big success in 2015 in terms of training routine, maybe even diets, or did you just stick with what worked and try to perfect that?
I can tell you with the diet, we definitely changed some things. We became more serious. We changed slightly in the gym that we now, because I started to becoming a man, it's around 20 years old. So we changed our routine in the gym to be more specific for what we want, because now we know that, okay, this is like 100 butterfly, this is our main distance, and we attacking it through the gym and through the water. But in the water, it was almost the same, because again, as I've said, we have this certain level of sets, certain amount of sets that we always do, and that's how we check everything. So because there have been some sets like 800 IM, 200 butterfly, 200 backstroke, breaststroke, and freestyle, and it's always hard. It doesn't matter if you are 14 years old or 20.
Yeah.
So yes, you're right.
So now let's fast forward to 2024, and here you are, the founder and owner of your own swim school, the AA Swim School in Singapore. Would you like to give us a bit more of an insight of what your swim school offers, the type of students you teach, and maybe even a small touch on certain strategies you want to implement in your swim school?
Yes, I would love to, I can tell you. So what we do is we help people through the world, all around the world, to become better swimmers. Most of the time we work with the triathletes, so we create a training program for them. We do video stroke analysis where people can just film themselves under the water, above the water, side from you, doesn't matter. And we'll just help them to improve their technique. Because many people, they're good runners, they're good cyclers, but swimming is their weak part in triathlon. And that's why they're coming to us, and we give them dryland exercise, training programs, video stroke analysis. We always have chat together, so if they have any question, they can always text me 24/7. So basically, we're becoming their online coach, that providing them with the value and helping them to become better swimmers.
You've obviously now highlighted that most of your students are triathletes. And as you've touched on, and drawing from my own experiences and conversations with others, even with triathletes at my university, it's quite clear that swimming is what most triathletes find the most difficult. And it's not a surprise because we both know that swimming is a very particular sport with a lot of attention to detail. Do you see any common mistakes that a lot of triathletes have when they come to you and ask you for advice on their swimming part in triathlon?
I think the most common mistake is the ankle. It's not a mistake, it's a problem of ankle flexibility. Because running, cycling, your ankle is always in this position. So, and in swimming, you have to have this pointed toes. So, because if your ankle is not flexible, it will be playing part as an anchor. It will make you more slower instead of providing propulsion. That's why many people are struggling with. And the second one is, again, many people, they can run full marathon, they can ride on a bike for 300 kilometers, but as soon as they jump in the water, they swim 1, 2 laps and they're very tired. It's because swimming is a arm dominant sport compared to running and cycling, where it's legs dominant sport. So, and we just need to train their shoulders, their upper body in such a way that it won't be too heavy for them to run and ride a bike, but also it will be efficient in the water.
And I would say as well that one of the most challenging things in swimming is actually feeling the connection throughout your entire body and being connected from head to toe, because these are all components of the body that you need in swimming. And I think a lot of times people make the mistake or have trouble in finding that connection, because I think a lot of times what you see as well is when people swim, their lower body starts to just drop and drag along in the water, especially when they breathe. And triathletes, obviously, they swim a long distance, and that distance is in open water, not in the swimming pool, which makes breathing even more difficult. Is there any differences, maybe in breathing or in general, in swimming in open water compared to swimming in a swimming pool?
Yes, because again, in the swimming pool is safe, right? There's no waves, there's no sun, there's no someone legs kicking right next to your head. In open water, you should try to be to try to play more safe in terms of you can turn your head more more to the side just to make sure that you won't drink any salt water or no one will kick you in the face. And also you have to know how to do bilateral breathing because you breathe to your dominant side, for example, to the right side, and there's a sun, you cannot see anything, or there is some big waves coming to your face, right? So you have to make sure that you comfortable of breathing to the other side.
And I've seen a lot of triathletes actually doing triathlons. They breathe to the front as well. Is that
Yes.
something that is done intentionally?
Yes, of course, because you need to see where you go, right? In a swimming pool, you just follow the line or you swim near the lane rope and you just don't need to worry about anything. But in open water, it's very important to swim in a straight line because if your distance is, for example, 2 kilometers and you won't see where you're going, you might swim 2.2 kilometers, right? And no one wants to swim extra meters. So usually people do every 10 strokes, sometimes earlier, depends what you're doing. If you swim on your own, you should breathe up front more often. But if you swim in a pack and you trust people who's in front of you, then you can just sometimes people don't even breathe up front just because they know that, oh, this guy knows what he's doing that is in front of me.
And in terms of triathlon and swimming in open water, would you say that technique is more important or endurance is more important? Because obviously both are extremely important because triathletes swim a long distance. But if they come to you, would you work on them more on their technique or on their endurance?
I think we should start with the technique. Of course, as you said, both are very important and crucial in triathlon. I think you just need to set up a proper technique. We just need to have above average technique and then we can work more on the stamina because it's very hard to make your technique perfect. Even myself, I know myself that I have a few mistakes in freestyle and it's fine. I don't need to change it because it's already such a strong habit that it will be very hard to change. I will spend a lot of time on it while I should work on something else. So we can spend a few weeks just fixing the technique and then we work more on the stamina because even if you have a great technique and if you don't have a stamina, you won't recover, you won't survive in triathlon.
So I've made a small list of important things to look out for in technique in swimming, and I'd like to share the list with you, and it'd be great if you could share a bit more insight into why these things are important. And I'll start off with the catch as the most important thing in swimming.
Yes, so the catch, I think, just to explain quickly, is your goal is to use only your hand and your forearm. So don't use your elbow at the start and try to keep your shoulder close to your cheek. So you will be able to perform high elbow in your catch.
Second, I've put down pull, so the phase right after the catch.
Yes, in a pull, the goal is not pull under your stomach. Try to pull slightly wider than your shoulder. In this case, you'll have the most power in your stroke.
Thirdly would be breathing.
Breathing, I think we should use the rule called one goggle rule. When you breathe is one goggle above the water, one goggle is under the water. And one small tip, you can also use your chin. Just lift your chin slightly higher. So you can keep your head slightly lower and chin slightly higher. Yes. It's a weird habit, but it will definitely help you with your body position.
Now, when you breathe, obviously you're slightly rotate your body to the one side, obviously to rotate your head and get air into your lungs. But rotation is, I think, something very important as well, because if you rotate too much, that will give you too much water resistance. So the fourth point I've put down is rotation.
Yes, the rotation, the best angle is around 40 degrees. If we will rotate less, what will happen is we will be more shoulder driven. It's good for the sprint, but if you're talking about long and efficient swimming, we have to use all of our body. So it will be stabilized, it will be balanced in our body. But if we will over rotate like 60 degrees, even more, what will happen is you won't be able to use your big muscles like chest, like lat muscle, and also your hip will start to sink. Because when we are flat, when we are on the side, we're sinking much faster than we on our flat.
After the breath, obviously, comes the recovery of your arm. Would you want us to give us a quick review on why that is important, and maybe as well the differences in a high elbow recovery and a straight arm recovery?
Yes, so recovery is very important. It's where you basically, obviously, your arm recovers because swimming is all about the balance. When you pull, you engage your arm, you spend energy, and when the arm is in the air, it has to rest, has to recover. And about differences between straight arm recovery and bent arm recovery is in the high elbow recovery, what happens is we allow our hand and forearm fully rest. So your arm will recover more. Your arm will recover faster. But with a straight arm recovery, it works more for sprints because you can roll your arms faster. You can have a higher stroke rate. But again, it's all about balance. If you do your straight arm recovery, you can swim faster, but you'll get tired also faster. But with the high elbow recovery, your hand and forearm will recover faster and you'll be just slightly slower. So that's why you can see in the Olympic Games or anywhere in long distance swimming, almost like 9 out of 10 people swim with the high elbow recovery. It's where basically your hand is just lower than your elbow. Simple. And for the sprint, 50, 100 freestyle, people swim with mostly with the straight arm recovery.
And I think there's a good drill as well to train this high elbow recovery. A drill where you kind of drag your hand along in the water.
Yes, there's many drills that help you with the filling of the water and so on. Some, for example, the drill that you said, some people call it drag swimming, some people call it gentle swim. Yes, this is one of my favorite drills. I like also when you touch your armpit, where you just try to shake your hand drill, where you do just normal freestyle. So it also always helps you to kind of feel your body more, feel that your hand is relaxed. This is the purpose of these drills.
And to feel the water as well, I guess, probably.
Yes, of course.
And I think that is a very important thing for people to know, that you need to feel the water. You need to be able to feel the water and the connection between your body and the water. And I think people forget as well that swimming is in an environment where you most probably are not used to being in, or you're only in that environment when you actually swim. Whereas when you run, for example, the motions you do while running are simple motions that you do every single day. When you walk to the bus stop, when you get out of bed and walk to the fridge or walk to the shower, these are the motions you do while running. But in swimming, the motions you do in swimming with the resistance in swimming, you only have while being in the swimming pool. And that's why it's even more so important for swimmers and people who want to get into swimming to develop that feeling for the water and the connection between your body and the water.
Yes, I totally agree because swimming is just unique sport in the sense that for humans, water is not our original habitat. Your body straight away increases the stress level because of it, because it just doesn't understand why we're here, why we're in the water, why we're in a horizontal position. If we're in a horizontal position, your body used to sleep only, but now you have to move your arms, legs, basically your whole body structure start to work. So this is also one of the biggest problems for beginners, just to calm your body down, to understand, okay, it's fine, don't need to stress about it, just breathe calmly and just start working. That's why we have this thing, how you said it's called filling of the water. Because if you don't swim, if, for example, you miss 2 or 3 weeks of trainings, you'll jump in the pool and you will just you already lost all your feelings of the water and you will feel kind of, it's not your thing anymore. That's why for the swimmers, especially in trainings, people train so much, especially before the competitions when they're tapering. They spend so much time on feeling of the water with doing certain drills, sculling and so on. So they'll just feel better during the competitions.
And I think that is very important for people to understand as well, because I think a lot of people probably give up a lot quicker than they should do when they start off in swimming. because it doesn't feel right and they don't feel the water the way that they think it should be. And that obviously takes a lot of time. But I still have the final bullet point of important things to look out for in technique. And the final point would be your kick. And I know you said in the beginning that swimming is a very arm-dominated sport, but the kick, I think we can both agree, is almost as important.
Yes, you're right. Kicking is very important, especially for sprints, because we don't want our legs to act as anchors. We want our legs to help us. Even though, again, is arm-dominant sport, as we agreed, but if your legs doesn't work right, this is the only part that can make you slower. So we have to have a proper legs. We have to kick from our hip, not from our knees, right? So we try to keep our legs mostly straight. And of course, just because of the different kicking techniques, we have different freestyle styles. So like 2-bit kick, 4-bit kick, and 6-bit kick.
When people start out in swimming, or maybe want to improve in swimming, they probably might not know where exactly to start. Do they start with their underwater? Do they start with their kick? Do they start with their pull? Do they start with stamina, with technique? If someone would come to you and ask you, Andrii, what is one thing I need to start to improve on, or where should I start to improve in swimming, what would you tell them?
Yes, if the person comes to me and they're completely rookie, completely beginner, what the thing we'll fix first is breathing. So because if you don't breathe properly, right, if you don't inhale or exhale properly, your stress level will go up, your heart rate will go up, and then everything else become irrelevant. So the first thing, we'll set up proper breathing. We'll give them a basis of how to do it, and then we can start thinking about our body position, what we have to do with the kicking, and after we set up kicking, body position, and breathing, we can start already thinking about the arms.
I think there's one question which a lot of listeners and viewers probably ask themselves, and I'm sure a lot of people have asked this question to you as well. And that question is, Andrii, what is the most efficient way to get fast in the pool? So what is the most efficient way to improve my sprints or to improve my endurance?
So the fastest way to become faster in the water is to swim fast in training. Long, tedious, and just without thinking swimming, just slow and boring, it won't help you because you need to change the muscle tissues, your tissues in the muscles. So, and just again, to become faster, you have to do sprints. You have to do all-out swims. It doesn't need to be long distance sprints. Just do 1 lap allowed. Just do 25 meters allowed. Do 50 meters allowed. And do it many times with a big break between them so you can rest and then you can go again. And the more you do it, the more your body adapts to it, the faster you can swim in future. And for the endurance, most people think that if they will just swim long distance, if they'll, for example, come to the pool and swim 3 kilometers almost non-stop and then they will get out, it will help. It will, but there's been many studies that show that if we will still incorporate more feeling of the water, coordination, even some sprints. For example, in my program, what we do, and we based our trainings on many studies. So we go from this like a science approach also. For example, person came, they want to do Ironman, and now they have to swim almost 4 kilometers in the open water. Of course, like 80% of our whole training plan will be for aerobic, for the long distance, right? For stamina levels. But we will still try to incorporate feeling of the water. We'll put many drills. We'll put even some sprints just to increase our initial speed. Because basically, I always hated the way of how coaches just don't think about anything and they just write a session and that's it. I always wanted to know myself when I was a swimmer, why we're doing this, right? What's the purpose behind this set, or why I'm doing this in the gym? And if the coach doesn't have an answer, I lose kind of respect and I don't have motivation to do it because I don't know why I'm doing it. And that's also our motto is any client that will ask me, oh, why I'm doing this instead of this, we will also always have a proper straight answer. This will help you with this. This will help you with this.
You've touched on it before where you said that when you train sprints or do sprints in training, it is important to have valuable and a lot of rest in between your sprints. would you just like to quickly touch on why is that important? It's in terms of recovery and why it's important to have longer rests after your sprints.
Yes. So just to clarify, your body, you need to have a rest around 3 minutes. If you do, like, for example, 50 freestyle all out, where you have already a lot of acids in your body, just to clean yourself, just to recover at least at 90% recovery, you need 3 minutes. So our famous set and very common set that people all around the world do is 450s all out in 10 minutes. So you do 50 meters from the block, from the dive, you swim fast, sometimes with a swimsuit right before the competition, and then you have 10 minutes rest. Why? It's because we need to fully recover. Because if you won't be fully recovered between sprints, your body will get used to swim slightly slower. Because the goal of sprints is to perform always when you're 100%. That's why you see how the sprinters, they're training and they rest most of the time. They can talk, they can chill. It's just because they need to fully recover. And for the long distance, again, these guys, they don't rest. But even if they rest just a little bit. Because I can tell you, one of my good friends, he's a silver medalist in the Olympic Games on the 1500, in the last Olympic Games. And these guys, they swim every day, 2 times every day, and only on Sunday they have evening rest. And their common sets like 40 times 100 freestyle with like 10 seconds rest in between or 5 seconds rest in between. They just swim non-stop.
Yeah, you'd be happy you didn't choose to become a long distance swimmer, didn't you?
Yeah, I think in sports you don't pick. You can kind of influence
Yeah,
it slightly, but
it just
I would
happens.
love to do, yes, I would love to do 100 freestyle, but I was doing mostly butterfly and just freestyle on the 50. Yeah, but thanks God, I'm a sprinter.
All right, so as we move towards the end of the podcast, I was going to ask you some small, quick fire questions. Answer doesn't
Yes.
have to be long, just quick questions. Are there any trends in swimming right now that you see getting big in the future?
Proper coaches.
You're one of them?
Hopefully, at least I'm trying to be.
What's the best swimming pool you ever swam in?
Junior Arena in Budapest. It's Hungary. Amazing pool, more than 20,000 seats. Amazing crowd.
Would you say the reason you picked that pool was because the feeling of the water was the best there, or what was the reason?
I wish, but I can say, as I remember, the water there is very good. I can tell you, definitely. Also, I think the best water is, I think, in London, but yes.
Obviously, you live in Singapore now. I've lived and grew up in Singapore. Your opinion on the OCBC arena in Singapore?
It's also very fast. I think it needed to be rebuilt to more higher standards right now because it looks quite old, but the water there is still fast.
And finally, do you have any advice to someone starting out, either as a swimmer, a coach, or generally in a business? Any advice?
Start to read, guys. I think theory is important. Of course, on the practice, many things will be different, but preparation is the key. Because if you don't prepare, you might lose everything straight away.
All right, that would be it. And that wraps up the first episode of the Sportiverse podcast. A big thank you to you, Andrii, for sharing your experiences and expertise. I really appreciate it, and I think our viewers and listeners appreciate it as well.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
To all the listeners, I hope you enjoyed this episode. For your information, there will be monthly episodes produced, but for more updates and upcoming episodes, you can follow the Sportiverse podcast on Instagram and YouTube for now. And a bit further along the line, we will have a website as well with even more information. Until then, stay curious and keep learning. Thanks for tuning in.